Service from Singapore asks,
Hi, Simon Martina. You so nasty. Okay, now for my serious question. What do you think about the North Korea-South Korea conflict? Also, what are the sentiments of South Koreans towards the conflict? Thanks, Thai Service Singapore.
So we've been getting this question a lot. Actually, we've been getting this question a lot for the past 5 years that we've been living in Korea.
Well, now as of late, because of what's been happening in the news, we've been getting in the comments, we've been getting on Facebook and Twitter, and a lot of email as well.
So before we answer that question, we're going to give you a little bit of back history. Some of you might already know this, but let's flash back to 5 years ago before we came to Korea.
That's the flashback music.
That was more like a flashback sound effect with arm wavings. So the day before we were supposed to fly out to South Korea, everything was going well, we were packed, ready to go, got our tickets. Then North Korea releases a message saying that it is going to
cover South Korea in a sea of fire.
Yep, that was the day before we flew out.
So we're on the airplane thinking to ourselves, what are we getting into? Like, I like teaching. I don't like it that much that I want to risk swimming in a sea of fire.
And all our families were like, you can't go, this is crazy, we're in a war zone, it's gonna be like awful, what are you doing?
It's kind of one of the reasons why we started our blog, because we want to show our family what it was like. Because when we arrived in South Korea, we noticed that there was no sea of fire anywhere.
And there was no panic due to an oncoming sea of fire. Everything was just
normal.
Even when we went to work, we were expecting to learn some kind of drills, like how to escape the bombing, how to escape a sea of ocean of fire, and
nobody cared. And then a couple of months later, North Korea released another statement saying that it's going to cover South Korea not in a sea of fire, but in an ocean of destruction. And then we thought to ourselves, wow, North Korea really likes their water metaphors.
Then it turns out, way back in the day, in 1994, North Korea threatened to cover South Korea in a sea of fire.
Now that it's 2013, it is almost a 20-year anniversary of the water destruction metaphor.
And they recently used it again. Like
yes.
just this year.
Just this year, another sea of fire. So to us, we've been living here for 5 years and we're thinking to ourselves, oh God, not this again. Here they go, blathering on. So for us and for other people in South Korea, they're not that upset or worried about this. The people who are the most upset and scared about this actually are people outside of South Korea. It's the media that's reporting it.
And the media is reporting in a way that makes the situation seem very like dire and
like
scary,
panicky and fear-inducing.
Yeah,
and
like
it's just...
I think in 2010 in the news they actually showed clips of high school and middle school students in South Korea practicing drills and wearing gas masks and like running outside and like hiding under chairs.
But what they didn't actually tell you is that like the clips that they used at that time were from like 4 years ago, not at the actual time of the attack. And like to you don't know that because you think, oh my God, this is what's happening in South Korea, but it's just a fire drill. Fire drills happen everywhere in the world.
And so, I mean, my school wasn't doing anything like that. Like I was still teaching at the time, and I think, were you still teaching at the time?
I was still teaching at the time as well.
There were literally no drills happening, except the news made it seem like it was this like all of South Korea was in panic. In fact, the first time I ever felt unsure about what South Korea would react was when Kim Jong-il died. I remember when he died, I thought to myself, what's gonna happen? Like, is everyone gonna panic?
Is something actually gonna happen now?
Yeah, like are school gonna be canceled? Are people gonna go to work? We opened up our window and it was like a completely normal day. There were people literally flying kites in the park.
We walked Spudgy and people were, I'm not joking, flying kites.
It was like the metaphor of how everyone cared.
I have never seen a single South Korean person panicked or unsure or unsettled about what's happening in North Korea. Going back to the media thing, another thing that I wound up seeing in the news recently that kind of made me feel uncomfortable, but not about North Korea, but more about the news. I saw there was a map that showed the different ranges of bombs that North Korea has, and it showed like, well, this bomb has mustard gas, and this is what happens to your body if you have mustard gas, and this one has anthrax, and this is what happens to your body when you have anthrax. And you look at this map and you just feel really icky, but that's not actually what's happening in South Korea. But publishing that map, if you read that, you're like, wow, this makes me feel really uncomfortable. So I think that the media is doing a really good job of making everyone outside of South Korea feel uncomfortable, but
and scared
and
like,
scared and worried.
Unsure.
But it's just like they're just trying to sell newspapers, but it's not really authentic to what's happening here.
Now, we're not saying that there is no threat. Of course, we have no idea what could happen.
We're not political figures here. We're not in the army ourselves. We know so little about this. We're just telling you what the feels here in South Korea.
Yes, but one thing I will say is that I think that it's unfair for people to keep talking about what's going to happen to people in Seoul when really the people that are most affected will be people in the army. The American army that's here as well as the Korean army. And so I think it sucks when people are like, oh no, how is this K-pop idol doing? Or how will people do here? And Martina, you guys okay? But even if there's a small skirmish that breaks out, people that are going to die are going to be people on the front lines. And even what happened kind of recently with the 46 sailors that died. Their ship was sunk by a North Korean torpedo and the news was going crazy about it and talking about these drills and everything. But really, the focus should have been on these soldiers that lost their lives.
So what what we're worried about and what a lot of the people that we know are worried about as well is not what's going to happen in Seoul, not about like North Korea invading South Korea and taking over it and dropping bombs everywhere. What really matters are those smaller conflicts that are going to be happening on like islands and out in the sea. So in a nutshell, we have 3 points. Number 1, media outside of Korea is making the situation seem a lot worse than it actually is, as if everyone's in a state of panic when they're not. Point number 2, the average South Korean is going about their everyday life as if nothing's happened. And number 3, what sucks the most is that there are going to be smaller skirmishes that are going to result in unnecessary lives lost, but nothing giant on a grand World War III kind of scale.
But then again, we want to emphasize the point, we are not political figures, we are not in the army.
We can't predict what's going to happen, but considering the pattern of North Korea constantly giving a lot of threats and nothing really big happening, we're not really worried about it ourselves right now.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week's TLDR. If you have a question for next week's TLDR, hopefully one less serious, leave your question in the comment section below.
Or check out the questions already asked either in YouTube or on our homepage and thumb them up so they get to our attention, and then we will perhaps answer that question.
And don't forget to subscribe for more TLDRs where we answer your questions about Korea and stuff.